now that I've had the beautiful light filled experience that I've had, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I could journey with anyone else because I loved my shamans and I loved my experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's start with like the actual what happened, like once you arrived there and just walk us through that now. I think that's like the
Uh,
most exciting part.
yeah, it's very beautiful. And this will probably be the part that I have the least amount to say,
Mm.
which is interesting. Um, it'll be to the point, but um, so we got into the space and we set up our, I told you, we drove our pillow cart a stone's throw away.
Yeah.
And we set up our little spaces, and there was like some tissue, Kleenex, and a plastic bag, like a Ziploc bag, not a bucket, but a Ziploc bag in case, you got sick and couldn't get up in time and go to the bathroom.
Mm.
But the place was dimly lit and it smelled of like Florida water, and it smelled shamanic, it smelled earthy. And the shaman, he is 71 and he's Peruvian. He spoke Spanish the entire time,
Mhm.
and he had his a couple of like instruments that are classic Peruvian shaman instruments. And his wife, very much like, ve- I was going to say they're both are very bhakti in their energy. One of the mantras that he chanted over and over all night long was Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah
Mm.
Shivaya. And his wife, has been teaching yoga for like 30 years, and very like very bhakti yogic couple. But and also he has, he's been in this lineage and legacy of Peruvian shamanism, and has been in ceremony himself and hosting them for like 25 years.
Mhm.
And that was all I knew about them. That was And my sister-in-law had had her first ceremony with them previously and said it was an incredible, just loving, warm space. She said they sang the whole time
Mhm.
and it was just really beautiful. And I was like, okay, like I'll that I mean, I we're very close and I trust her, and so I felt, good. And so we get to the place and we like set up our area, and I saw our little plastic bag. And again, I've said that that was the thing I was most nervous about, was the physical
Mhm.
part. And so what you'll read about ayahuasca on the internet is that you purge, which is part of the cleansing process. That's what it says. But as we know in this conversation, the cleansing process does happen before.
Mhm.
So if you don't engage in beatas before, if
Mhm.
you're eating cheeseburgers days before your ceremony, you're probably going to get sick. Yeah, it
Mhm.
could happen. It might happen. Your vessel's not clear. Like that could happen. So a lot of that fear is like preventable. um, but also, this is something that I learned just I think it was like after or right before the ceremony. Um, my sister-in-law shared that we probably won't, she was like, you might get sick, you might feel nauseous, but I didn't throw up. They serve, oh, and they told us this. It was them, they told us this.
Mhm.
The They serve a traditional blend of the beverage. So they use the vine and the leaves of a tree, two different trees. There is another vine that comes from another tree that really induces the purging.
Mhm.
And so my ayahuasqueros that I journeyed with, they do a more traditional blend
Mhm.
where it's the traditional vine and the traditional leaves. They don't add in that third component, that second vine that really makes you purge.
Mm.
So I found that interesting. You know, I could maybe go to Peru and be in a space with other traditional shamans that do that, that offer that blend, and
Mm.
I would have more of that purging experience. Um, but yeah, they acknowledged that. So they gave a lot of context. So they welcomed us into the space, and you know, sometimes you'll go on like ayahuasca retreats where you're there for days. And this was maybe because it's a little bit of a lighter experience. It's not like accommodations. You're not staying overnight. You could stay overnight, but it's not like a whole retreat. Some ayahuasca ceremonies are like you drink the drink one night, you have another night off to integrate, you drink the drink the third night, you have a night
Mm.
off, you drink the drink the fifth night. So it's like three
Wow.
nights of ceremony over the course of a week. And
Mhm.
this was not that in depth. This was 2 nights. You could come to both or one, and I just did one.
Mhm.
And so, um, yeah. So we were in the space, and they were introducing themselves and giving us their background and honoring their teachers, and you know, his ayahuasca teacher, master, and trainers and guides that he's been a part of, his lineage, his family, his legacy. And then they just kind of gave us like high level, like, this is how it's going to go. You're going to have your first drink, and we're going to play music, or we're going to sing and play our instruments the whole night. They sang and played their instruments for like 5 hours straight. It was crazy, so good. Like, um, it was like a concert along with the journey. I mean, it was just incredible.
Mm.
And so, you know, they were like, we're not putting on a playlist, you know, we're not gonna, you know, please make sure your phones are off so we don't have the Wi-Fi thing happening and the Bluetooth, and
Mm.
like just have all your devices turned off or on airplane mode. We are going to sing to you tonight. And the music mantra that they chanted, or traditional ayahuasquito, traditional shaman songs
Mm.
that we're going to be singing and chanting for you tonight, are intentionally placed for your journey. So
Mm.
we create a very loving, open, light filled space. We
Mm.
are deeply supported. We are very experienced. You can trust this space. This space is one that is held in light. This
Mm.
space is one that is held in love. And that is our intention for all of you, is to have a deeply heart opening, loving, light filled experience. The
Mm.
music that we are going to be performing and playing for you tonight is meant to guide you through your experience.
Mm.
So, attune to the frequency of the music. Your two anchoring points are
Mm.
your breath and the music.
Mm.
So, use the music and use your breath to be connected to the light filled, loving, intentional space that we're creating for you. And if there's anyone that needs anything, you can always, you know, come up here and let us know. But in all of our years, we've never had any issues.
Mm.
And so it was just really like set in intention, and set in an intentional space. And um, I immediately felt very trusting, and I had been excited. I had always held that like excitement, but there was fear. But
Mm.
as soon as I got into the space and they were orienting us, and I just saw like who was there, and I felt the energy around us, I was just like, this is gonna be good. I'm held. I'm good. Um, he was like the real deal. You know, he only spoke Spanish, and he, you know, as soon as I remember walking into the space and setting down my things and just looking at him, and he looked at me and he's like, hello. And I was like, hi, you know, and then when it came about time for us to like fully sit down in our circle and
Mm.
begin, he kind of got up and he was kind of walking around in a circle, shuffling his feet a little bit. He was like, shh, 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 shh. And that is like a shamanic thing to do. Like shamans sing and they whistle and they chant, and like he started doing that. And as soon as I heard him do that, something clicked on for me, and it was like a deep remembering. I
Mm.
have been in this space before. I am good here.
Mm.
I've heard that before. I'm good here.
Mm.
I felt incredibly grounded. And then his wife was translating everything he was saying, and he was giving us history and giving us context and, demystifying things. And I mean, they talked to us for a while, got us really good and grounded. And then she did like a breath work exercise with us, which I'm still doing that same breath work technique for my own meditation in the mornings and guiding my clients through it, and really simple, but just
Mhm.
grounding. And then they have the altar. They have like a little altar, space in front, where they're sitting, and their instruments are around them. And our first drink. So you have two drinks. The first round, we went like in the
Mhm.
order, in the circle. And then 75 minutes later, they told us we will offer a second drink.
Mhm.
And if it's your first time, because there were a lot of first timers, if it's your first time and you're not really feeling it, I mean, you're feeling it a little bit, but it's kind of waning, let us know and we'll adjust the amount that we give you on the second drink. You
Mhm.
don't have to take a second drink, but you're welcome to. Um, and we want to leave it up to you and your intuition. What I knew from, or what I had heard, previously, was take the second drink,
Yeah.
because that's when it really starts. And if you don't, you'll just be like hanging out for the rest of the night, listening to music, and everybody else is going to be like in their journey, and you're not going to be, especially if it's your first time.
Mhm.
She also mentioned something that was really, I thought it was really cool, insightful, that even if it feels subtle,
Mhm.
even if you have like a subtle experience tonight, the medicine is working, and it is subtly working in the background. And the medicine continues to work for days, weeks,
Mhm.
years beyond. Your consciousness will be changed, like it can shift in one evening.
Mhm.
Important to keep the atas present as you integrate in the days ahead to come. So we had our first drink, um, and it was like right on time, like 25 or so minutes. And I wasn't keeping track, but I'm a good keeper of the time. Like I think it's all of my salon years. I'm like, that's been 15 minutes. I can feel it. I know what 15 minutes feels like. So it was probably around like that 20, 25, 30-minute mark that I started to kind of feel a little bit. And you're so they have the lights dimmed, but then when they started talking, they turned off the lights and there were only candles lit.
Mhm.
And that was throughout the entire orientation and everyone receiving their first drink. As soon as the last person received their drink, and the shamans, they drank with us. The shaman and her wife drank with us. As soon as everyone receives their first drink, they blow the candles out and the room is completely dark. And when I heard this, I was like, maybe I'm not going to like that.
Mhm.
But now, having done it, I'm like, no lights.
Yeah.
You want it to be dark. And so you just sit there upright, like crown to heavens, root to earth. And you're just like eyes closed, and you're just like breathing and listening to them playing their beautiful music, singing their songs. And you're just like in this experience, it's like, how long, how many times do you have the opportunity to sit and meditate for 6 hours with plant medicine? So it's kind of like that posture of meditation and just inwardness. I started to feel it, and it was very subtle and it was gentle. And the first vision I saw was like, it looked like my son's, when he was a baby, they do the ultrasound. It looked like his little profile in an ultrasound picture, but it was like bright, vibrant neon purple and green.
Mhm.
It was like this little picture of a baby, like floated. And I opened my eyes real quick, like, oh shit, what was that?
Yeah.
And then I realized I liked it. And so I closed my eyes. Like, I want to go back. What was that? What was that?
Wow.
What was that? Um, very in that moment, I knew someone in my family had been in a car accident.
Mhm.
And I saw my son and my mom who were en route earlier that day. Um, but probably around the time we were sitting in ceremony, actually, because they were held up in a lot of traffic, I knew that they had witnessed an accident or that they had been in one. Like it was both. There was a witnessing of the accident and then there was an accident. And I
Mhm.
knew that my family was involved. Um, and it concerned me, but I also knew that everything was going to be okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
And both of those things happened that night. My son and my mother witnessed two accidents on their drive to their mountain house.
Mhm.
And my stepdad was actually, he was a little bit later down the road, later leaving. He was headed to the same, house, their mountain house. He actually did get in an accident
Mhm.
that night. And so there was that was like the first thing that came in. It was like his ultrasound baby picture and then the knowing of car accidents. And I mean, I have that kind of connection, um, I guess mediumship or whatever you want to call it. But that was like the first thing that came through. That was interesting. And then it was just like geometric shapes and colors and um, before the second drink, I'll pause. And if you have any questions, it was very subtle before the second drink. I was enjoying the relaxation and the colors, and um, I felt very relaxed. I felt very safe, and I felt warm, and um, I felt this feeling of like ease. And I think there was this background egoic voice of like, we're doing it and it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're safe and it's good. So there was that. That was before the second drink. So I'll pause if you have any questions.
No, this is very interesting. Like, as you were explaining it, as you were sharing what was happening, I could almost envision me going into this space. Like, it was just the way you delivered the story was so profound. And sitting with these people, I had goosebumps when you were sharing that you've been here and this is safe and I'm like allowed to be here. It's interesting what you're sharing about how your experience led to this. It almost anchored you into reality to let you know this is real. What you're just about to experience, everything else is very real. And the way they did it was with the accidents. I've had that happen to me over and over again with my past life regression work, and I'm just drawing a parallel because um, it's again all these modalities are doing these weird things that we're not used to experiencing. And if we can
Mm-hmm.
dismiss and debunk that, that's great, right? So it's just like same thing would happen to me. For example, in one of the past lives I saw, um, I apparently was the mother, I was a very young mother to a child that, and his father was an alcoholic. So he unfortunately starved both of us and even gave the baby alcohol. And the baby died, and I died out of suffering for the baby. And it was just a terrible past. But
Mm-hmm.
my healer asked me to check in with, I recognize that baby to be like a far-fetched friend, somebody I'm not close with, but just somebody who's been in and out of my life. And he's like, why don't you check in to see if he has stomach problems? And literally I went up to that friend and I didn't tell him about this whole past life thing because I was like, oh, you were my kid. No, I didn't do that. But um I went up to him and he confirmed that he
Wow.
had stomach problems, and the year I met him his problems went away. So my healer confirmed, he's like, mama healed baby. So for me, like
Oh.
all the other past lives that I saw in that one journey became
Mm.
real. So it's like I can relate to what you're
Mm.
saying, and it's like perhaps the energies anchored you into reality with that car accident to let you know
Mm-hmm.
everything else you're experiencing is going to be very real and you can trust it.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Wow, that's fascinating too, your experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear more. Keep going. What happens
Okay.
next? So you've had a very subtle but very profound experience so far, and then you have
Mm-hmm.
beverage number two.
Mm-hmm. Took the second drink and let them know that it was very subtle.
Mm.
And so instead of giving me a half dose, they gave me a full dose. And so it's beautiful. Like you go up to the altar space and he blesses it. He blesses your drink and Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om, Om, Om. He gives you that offering and gives it to you and you
Mm.
can hold it. And I held it to my heart both times and just like, I'm here, I surrender, I'm here to receive the medicine and drink, and then you kind of hobble back to your little pillow pile. And then sitting and it was like, all right. um, when the effects of the second dose drink hit, it was like, oh, this is stronger. So
Mm.
there was a little bit of nausea. Um, I didn't think I was going to throw up. Um, I didn't love it. It passed. I This is where I have less to say because it truly was an experience of feeling and transporting and traveling. Um, I became very present to how I had been neglecting my self-care, my body, my my spirit, the alignment that we were speaking to
Mm.
earlier in this conversation, through not allowing deep rest, through consuming toxicity, through sacrificing my own wellness and well-being for in service to trying to serve others. I became deeply aware of that
Mhm.
and examples of it. Clients were like flying through my visions along with the to-do list I had to do. But then it was like, this is all of your stuff.
Mm.
This is everything that you've been like engaging with and facilitating and in relationship with. And it was like a big mirror, Is this yours? Is this aligned? Do you want to hold on to it? Is
Mm.
it working? And also, I hadn't slept well the night before,
Mm.
and I was physically like tired.
Mm.
And I felt, when you're like on an airplane and you're like trying to rest and you're kind of dozing in and out of sleep and you're like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
There was some of that happening. And I was not like mentally, I was not sleeping. Okay. Like mentally, there was a lot happening. But in my body was like, I'm so tired. My body was so tired. And
Mm.
so it became this like struggle of making sure my body stays awake and upright and then like receive the experience of what's happening.
Mm.
And then it was like, do you see yourself struggling?
Mm.
Are you with the struggle? You're in struggle right now. How are you in struggle? As I was like in that inquiry of like, how am I in struggle? And also being really confronted by like, I am the maker of my own mess here. Like, I am the maker of the fact that I've gained 20 pounds. I am the reason why. Like, I haven't taken care of myself. I haven't done these things. Like, it was really, really, really confronting, but
Mm.
all with like this beautiful frequency of love in the background. I felt really
Mm.
safe. Like, it was just like a meeting with all of me, and then I got like really fucking uncomfortable. And I like pulled off my socks and I took off my scarf and I took off my sweater and I kicked one of my pillows and I was like, none of this. I don't need any of this, like I'm just
Yeah.
gonna and I like was sitting in the middle of my little cushion area, just sitting there like fine, fine. I'm just gonna be in my discomfort. Here we go.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, cool. So much love. Then all of a sudden it was like my heart just like opened, and
Mm,
I just felt this tremendous amount of love for myself
mm,
and for everyone around me and my life and my family. And I saw today's version, not the ultrasound version, but I saw my son, I saw my
mm,
mom, I saw my stepdad, I saw my dog. Like I saw just, you know, my family and the components, the core components of the relationships that I'm in my life. And it just felt like a deep level of love and trust and openness and warmth and um, gratitude. There was like a big energy of like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And it was so interesting. Um, during one of during kind of like after I got really uncomfortable and started shedding,
yeah.
um, when I was sitting in the middle, and I felt like I was like in the middle of a big room
Mm,
that had an endless perimeter, like I was like center,
mm,
small, tiny micro, but in a very big space is what it felt like.
mm,
Um, it was in that moment where I recall trying to open my eyes,
mhm,
but my eyes wouldn't open.
mhm,
And it was like I don't even have eyelids anymore. My eyelids are gone.
mhm,
There's no eyelids. Everything is dark.
mhm,
Doesn't matter if my eyes are opening or not.
mhm.
It is just here. It was like nothingness, which
Wow.
was really interesting because that was kind of like a joke later on in the weekend. I was like, my eyelids, are they still here? Because I thought my eyelids were gone.
Aw.
Yeah. But eventually I like scooted back and
Mm,
I lined myself up against the wall to really stay like upright. And um, that's when I felt myself kind of like, like coming back down. And as soon as I started to acknowledge that it was waving down, I was like, I am so tired. I
mm,
feel very tired. I
mm,
am really like, I want to rest. And then it was like that knowing of that's exactly what I get to do now. I get to rest. And
mm,
as soon as I had that knowing, the candles were lit. One candle like lit in the room, and then another candle, and then another candle, and then another candle.
mm,
And it was like the closing of the ceremony. We had hit the end of the journey, and at that point it was probably about 2 o'clock in the morning.
mm,
We had been journeying since 6:30, 6:45.
mm,
7 p.m. is when 6 o'clock is when we were supposed to be there, and then they oriented us for about an hour, and then we
mm,
moved into the ceremony part. And so it was about 2 o'clock in the morning when they
mm.
turned on the candles. So we laid around in that space for about an hour,
Mhm.
75, hour and a half or so, slowly put our pillows back in the car,
Yeah.
and then, a few rolls up the hill into our Airbnb.
Mhm.
And got oh, you fast. So you fast for like 24 hours.
Okay.
And so we didn't have anything to eat or drink after 12 p.m. that day, and ceremony started at 6, 7. And
Mm.
then you don't eat or drink. You break your fast at 12 p.m. the next day. It's a 24-hour fast. So we got back to the house. We had water. Like they had water there for us, and so we had a little bit of water. We had just like some room temp water, and
Mm.
it was kind of like hard to drink it. It was like
Mm.
I don't want a lot. I'm thirsty, but I can't really physically drink a lot right now.
Yeah.
But then when you break your fast, what you have is a chopped up onion
Okay.
marinated for like 10 minutes in lemon juice and salt,
Mm.
and lemon juice and like a sea salt. And it's just a little tiny, like a little dish of it, a
Yeah.
couple of bites. Like
Yeah.
you break your fast with that, and it's supposed to be like purification.
Mm.
So that was the journey, V. I went to sleep. We went to sleep around like 3:30, 4 o'clock
Mm,
that morning, and we're out in the woods in the mountains of North Carolina, just so beautiful. And just I remember just like waking up the next morning and seeing the sunlight and all the trees, and just it was just like
mm,
I felt so much love. And the next day we sat by the fire and just took it really easy. Don't have a lot of energy. We ran baths for ourselves. We were in like a really nice Airbnb, so we had these big soaking tubs, and my sister-in-law made like a bath blend for all of us. So it was like
wow.
salts and oils and herbs, and so that was really nice and restorative. And you just like take it real easy. I made a big pot of cacao for us, and so we were drinking cacao, and we had like a light, plant-based meal around 4 o'clock that afternoon. And yeah, just a really like I journaled a lot during those. We stayed a couple days there, and then I drove
Mm,
up to where my parents live, and stayed there for with them, and then came back. Eventually, came back home. But um, yeah, it was a really profound experience and deeply reflective and inward, and it
mm.
truly is a journey.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm in awe. That's so amazing.
Lots of love, very warm, very open, inviting, confronting,
Mm,
truthful, honest, raw, opening,
mm,
gifts of the mother, right? Like the divine mother and the wisdom of our ancestors. That was,
mm,
I know that I feel deeply called to keep working with this medicine intentionally, and
mm,
incorporating this, you know, into my own spiritual journey and practice. And
mm,
I'm still very much in the integration part of it all. So,
mm. Yeah, I mean, there's so much there. I feel it in my stomach. I feel like this deep sense of just rootedness where
mm,
I went through the journey, perhaps. And it's just
mm,
sharing it from your experience, but I feel like I'm there. I went through those
aw,
with you, and it's just, I have so little to say right now. I'm almost like forcing myself to speak because I don't want to speak. I just feel so full and so rich.
mm.
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. This was so good to have this time with you. And
Yeah.
I could make a I could extend a gesture that like we can keep these conversations going. And I think I am just at the tip of my processing and integrating and
Mhm.
implementing as well, like allowing for rest and creating boundaries, and really allowing the attunement
Mm,
and alignment that is naturally here,
mm,
allowing that to be the guide, to be the directive of my life and my business and my relationships. And that it feels really whole. It feels whole, and I feel really supported. I've had just like on a manifestation business fun level, I've had a lot of new clients come in the past, or prospects. I'll say I've had a couple of new clients happen since my journey.
mm,
One was like, no, like new connection, I want to work with you kind of thing. But a lot of like prospects coming in, and
mm,
folks that I feel aligned with working and nurturing. and
mm.
and 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 so like there's a lot of promise here, and there's affirmation, and I get to lead it in the way that feels most aligned to me. And so that feels it feels really good.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just so fascinating to see how powerful the experience would have been for you to know that I can feel it through this technology, through this internet, just through your sharing. I feel uplifted. uplifted is probably
Mm.
more like an energized word. I feel rooted. I feel safe. I feel like all my misunderstandings or my lack of understandings about ayahuasca get clarified because you do speak to the parts about how people may misuse it, right? The person
Mm.
experiencing it may misuse it, the person leading the space may misuse it.
Mhm.
But the people that you and I are, and I trust that the people that are watching this, listening this, we're not in that category. We just don't fall into that temperament where we would play around with sacred,
Mhm.
right? So it's
Mhm.
just what stays sacred will remain sacred whether or not we play around with it. But
Mhm.
it's just to say that we're willing to go straight. We're focused. This is important to us, and we can and you get to reap the rewards. And I'm just like so grateful right now to have
Ah,
heard all of that and to experience that and to live that with you for the past hour or so.
thank you, V. Such an honor to share. And I love that you feel that deep connection. I hope that I'm able to give that connection without even sharing the journey, that I can
Yeah,
just give that connection of groundedness and safety and
yeah,
love. I would say love, truth, light. Like that was the energy of that space that was held for us. And for me, that translates into just infinite possibility. And
yeah. There's like a lot of background noise, so I'm like juggling between muting and unmuting myself. Oh,
sorry.
yeah. No, but this is amazing, Emily. I think that you have a call right now, right? Like in 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna let both of us go. But just there's a lot of material here, and I would probably like divide it into different parts and just I'll feel how it feels into like how we can both share this with the world.
Yeah.
Um, but I like your idea because I do have follow-up questions that I just don't want to. I'm digesting what you shared. I'm digesting your
Good.
journey, so I want to give it spaciousness for those kind of more logical brain questions. We'll give them space as well, but for today, I
That
think
sounds
just feels
good.
really good.
I'm so glad. I feel so complete as well. It's so good to be in the space with you and connect with you and to share in this way. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Emily. Thank you so much for
Mm,
everything. I will send you away with love, and I hope to see you again very soon.
sounds good, love. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.